My top 5 books all graduates should read. So these books have had a massive impact on the way I live my life and has impacted decisions like what job I have, how much money I spend, and where I live. And I've chosen each 5 because each one is going to give you something unique. And if someone was graduating university, they wanted to be as successful as possible, but they could only read 5 books, these are the 5 that I would recommend. So, let's get into it. The first book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And this one really is the Bible of personal finance. When I first read this book, this completely changed my perspective of the world and opened my eyes to being successful. Being rich is a decision that I'm going to make and that I can make a reality by applying certain principles and habits to my life. And even though that might trigger some people, I felt really empowered that being rich, being wealthy, being successful is something that I have power over, that I can make a decision to be successful. And I really think they should teach this in school because this has a massive impact on how financially literate people are. But the fact that they don't, if you just read this one book, your financial literacy, how you manage money, is going to be so much better than 99% of the population. It tells a story of 2 dads, the poor dad, who is his real dad, his conventional dad, 9-to-5 lecturer who struggles with money, and the rich dad, the entrepreneur who has got financial success and understands the science of money making and tries to instill that in a young Robert. And what I really like about this book is it teaches you things through stories, and one that's really resonated with me was about the power of selling. And it's the reason I work in sales today. And it tells a story of an author who wanted to get her book published, but she was struggling, so she approached Robert for some advice. And his advice was that she needed to learn how to sell. Because if you're in an interview, you've got to sell yourself to an employer. If you're a business, you've got a product to sell. And in her situation, she had a book that she needed to sell to the publishers. And if she can learn to sell, she's going to be able to publish her book and become a top-selling author. But she thought herself above selling. She's an author, not a saleswoman. But he said to her, you aspire not to be a top writing author, but a top selling author. But unfortunately, I don't think she took Robert's advice and never got her book published. But he encourages the reader not to make the same mistake and really understand the importance of learning to sell. The next book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And this one is the self-help book. You're not going to meet many highly successful people who've not read this book. If selling is one of the most important life skills, then what is selling if it isn't just connecting and building relationships with other people? And if you want to make friends, you want to build connections, you want to build relationships, you need to read this book because there's things you should do and things you shouldn't. One lesson that really resonated with me is I like to debate, but it made me choose between winning a debate, winning an argument, or making a friend. Because if I'm in a debate with someone in an argument and I win that argument, they're not going to feel very good and they're not going to want to be my friend. So I've got to make a decision. Do I win the argument or do I make the friend? And sometimes you should win the argument, but 9 times out of 10, you should lose the battle, lose that argument for the sake of winning a friendship. And this book is not a wish-washy self-help book where once you've read it, you feel more confused than when you first started reading. This one gives you real actionable things you can apply to your life straight away to start enriching your friendships and building better connections. One is that you should remember people's name. And I know a lot of people struggle with this, but it tells you that in a conversation, an initial conversation, repeat the person's name 3 times. And it's going to go a long way to remembering that. So if you meet Rachel and she tells you her name, say, Rachel, it's so nice to meet you. Rachel, what are you up to later? It has been so nice to meet you. See you later, Rachel. And also, if you can remember small details about her personal life, when you see Rachel in a couple of weeks, say, Rachel, so good to see you. How are your kids, Nathaniel and Natalie? And that's going to go a long way in terms of building a friendship. And I know it can feel a little bit artificial, but if you do it enough, you're going to build the habit and it will become part of your arsenal in terms of building friendships. Elon Musk by Ashley Vance. So I only read this book a few weeks ago, but it's quickly shot up to my all-time favorite books because of the emotional impact this had on me. So this made me really question everything that I'm working towards and really reflect on what is my purpose and is everything I'm doing on a day taking me closer to achieving that. It tells the story of a really odd entrepreneur from South Africa who achieved wild success through what is pure determination, purpose and intellect and achieve that success despite all the adversity. And what really resonated with me was the purpose-driven nature of Elon and how he always questions everything he does and asks himself, does this take me further and closer to making humans an interplanetary species? And he even questions things on the Joe Rogan podcast of his Model X, and he programmed the car to dance to a certain song, and he asked himself, should I have spent the resource and time to program that into the car, because does it take the car industry closer to being more sustainable? Personally, I've always wanted to live a life for myself that was better than the one that was set out for me when I was born. Kind of achieve success despite what people would have said about me. But the reality is I'm living that right now, and I'm more successful than most people probably thought I would be. So I'm starting to ask myself now, what now is my purpose other than just making more money? And the reason I really would recommend this to especially young people is if you can reflect on your purpose early and you can start working on that earlier, you're going to increase the impact that you're going to have on the world and increase your chances of being successful. And personally, it really cemented that starting this channel is the right thing to do, because if I can help out the 20-year-old me's of today, you know, get a good job, earn more money, be more successful, reach higher and achieve that quicker, then it's worth making these videos. And that's kind of the purpose of this channel. And it really, just reading this book, cemented that that purpose and that mission behind this channel is one that is worth pursuing. The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I don't have a physical book because I listened to the audiobook. The premise of this is work smart and not hard. And it's an extreme look into the Pareto principle, which is the 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your work. And the book really encourages you to focus and find that 20%, to eliminate as much waste as possible, focus on the smart work, outsource and automate as much as possible so you can live anywhere you want, sip mojitos on a beach and check your emails a couple of times a day. And I think that's a really extreme version of what most people are going to take from this book. When I first read 4-Hour Work Week, 90% of my focus and my time was dedicated to my graduate scheme because I thought more work equals more success. But after reading this book, I recognized that I just need to focus on eliminating waste and focus on high quality added value work. And since then, my pay has increased, my year-end reviews have got better, my investments have increased, I've got a property, a YouTube channel, a successful business, and I've been able to juggle even more and increase my streams of income because I was applying the principle of working smarter and not harder. The reason I recommend all graduates read this book is, despite the fact I want everyone to get a great job, get paid well, and really stretch themselves within their job, just recognize more hours doesn't equal more success. And that's a bit of a boomer mindset. It's more about the quality of your work, being smart of your time, and trying to get the mindset. It's not about how much I earn, it's how much I earn per hour. The final book is The Tattooist of Auschwitz by Heather Morris. This one is certainly not a self-help book, and I did debate putting on the list. However, this is a story everyone should read. It tells the story of Lael and Greta and their journey through Auschwitz, and just going through the worst possible experience any human should never have to go through, and how through Lael's pure wit, determination and charisma was able to negotiate his way through Auschwitz and come out the other side. And I won't spoil the end of it, but it's a horrific story from start to finish, and everyone should hear this story. And the reason it resonated so strong with me, and I finished this like that in 2 sittings, because it really helped put my problems into perspective. So if I'm debating starting a YouTube channel, going for a job, starting a business, I ask myself after reading this, what is the worst that could happen? And I never once landed on anything that was close to what these people experienced. And it put my problems into perspective and made me realize that people fought in World War I and World War II and went through these horrible experiences, so I didn't have to. And it's almost my duty to recognize I only have one life and I plan to live it. And the problems that I'm experiencing right now, these guys wish they had my problems. And this book just made me really recognize that I'm incredibly fortunate for the position I'm in, and I need to seize every single opportunity. And all these fears and limiting beliefs that I have, I just need to ignore. And just reading this book got me super charged up. One, you need to remember these stories because this only happened less than 100 years ago, which is kind of inconceivable. But one, we should remember these stories, but two, use these stories to make sure our life is worth living in honor of these people. The last book is Unshakeable by Tony Robbins, and this one is a build on Rich Dad Poor Dad. So if Rich Dad Poor Dad is the mindset to becoming successful and wealthy, Unshakeable is the strategy. So it spends the first half of the book preaching compound interest, which is the snowball effect of money and the exponential increase that you experience on your money if you start early and keep topping it up, and how that to be successful and wealthy is probably easier and quicker than you'd actually imagine. It then goes on to talk about how you should invest, and it speaks about index funds, which are these trackers that track certain markets like the S&P, which is America's market, which is average about 7 to 10% return on investment. And if you can leverage compound interest, start early, you can be wildly successful if you just have patience and you have consistency. And this book is an accumulation of about 50 plus interviews Tony Robbins had with these highly successful individuals. And I found that if I got the mindset from Rich Dad Poor Dad, this one left me with an action plan to invest. And this is how I started investing in index funds. And so far, I've got a 30+% return on investment since I've been following the advice of this book. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please smash like, comment below if any of these books you absolutely love, or if any book you think should have been featured, comment that below, and subscribe for more wisdom. Boom.